Greetings, Corpse Clubbers, and welcome to another episode of Corpse Club Horror BFFs. I am one of your Horror BFFs, Patrick Bromley, joined as always by my Horror BFF, the managing editor of DailyDead.com, Heather Wixson. Hi, Heather.
Hey, Patrick. I was going to try to do something super cool and thematically relevant to our episode today with a little but I'm pretty lame at it, so that was about as best as I could give it. So
I feel like that
apologies.
Counts. You found a way to work it in while calling attention to it. How very meta of you.
Yes, I mean, I learned from the best.
As long as we're recording, yeah. Speaking of Wes Craven, as long as we're recording, last week my wife Erica showed me on Twitter all kinds of love for Scream 4.
Goddamn right.
And where were all these? You've been, please, I know who's been banging the drum for that movie the longest, okay? And I will make sure that everyone else knows that you were way ahead of all of this Scream 4 love.
Well, just make sure that shit is on my tombstone when that time comes, because
Wait,
I tell you this?
Are you dying? Is there something I should know?
I mean, probably.
I'm your horror BFF.
Know.
You're supposed to tell me these things.
No, but do you not remember? Like, it was 2013. I think it's the first time that I was on after this movie, and I think we talked about Scream 4 even back then. And
if we were recording a podcast, we definitely talked about Scream 4 because you
of course
always find a way to work it in.
I'm on brand, if nothing else. And I remember saying, like, just wait. We're gonna get up to that 10th anniversary, and suddenly it's gonna be like the most beloved movie ever. And here we are. We're almost 10 years out.
Yep. And
everybody loves it. But it's funny because I'm one of those possessive people, like, where I'm just like, it's mine. This is my toy. But at the same time, it makes me happy that everybody's finally kind of coming to their senses on Scream 4. Or maybe people loved it and they just were afraid to say it because, we're a hive mentality on the internet, and it takes a bold person to declare that they like something, and you're like, is everybody going to jump on me for this? Maybe not. So, but it was nice to see. So I'm working on Scream Queens now. So I'm gonna try to bring it back for Scream Queens, at least season 1. So
I'm just glad that all of this residual love skipped right over Scream 3.
Look, well, I mean, I love Scream 3, and I will always love Scream 3, but Scream 4 is better.
Scream 4 is better.
I mean, 3 is a mess, but I still love it, and I still have fun with it. And, eventually it might be a hill that I have to go die on once Scream 4 finally gets to that level where New Nightmare is now.
Right.
Because I fought for years over New Nightmare too. Not, probably pre-internet days, but everybody was like, oh, that stupid movie? Like, that didn't make any sense. Or, how do you bring Freddy Krueger into real life? And his face looks so weird. And, and I feel finally people are understanding, what exactly New Nightmare was doing. So maybe Scream 3 is my next hill. Maybe 2022, that's my new mantle, is Scream 3.
It may be.
It's tough. It's tough bearing this burden for the genre, but I'm willing to do it.
Well, why are we here today, Heather? Tell everyone what we're doing on this week's show.
Oh boy, put it on me, why don't you?
That's right.
I think we're doing Tommy Jarvis movies because
it's
Friday the 13th, and we wouldn't be a horror podcast if we didn't talk about Friday the 13th.
You don't expect us to think of something else to talk about, everybody. Yeah, this podcast is dropping on Friday the 13th. Luckily, there's a whole series of movies based around that day. We really lucked out because it's awkward when it comes out on just like a Friday the 7th, like nothing, there's no movies about Friday the 7th. Friday the 13th, however, we are in the clear. So yeah, we thought we would talk about just the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. Speaking of movies that no one loves, that some of us have to go to bat for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like that's probably the place to start.
No, obviously not, but I'm just glad that we'll get to it.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to it, all right.
I'll say something controversial right off the bat. You ready for it?
I'm ready. Drop it.
My order for these movies, in order of how much I like them, it goes right. God. It goes right in order. It goes 4, 5, 6.
Whoa. Okay, that's not what I thought you were gonna go 5, 4, 6, and I was like,
no,
what?
I don't. No, 4 is my favorite of all of them. So I don't. Okay. Yeah, I don't like 5 more than 4. I'm not a complete crazy person, but I do like 5 more than 6, which I know is going to upset some people.
Oh, I go 4, 6, 5. Although 4 and 6 for me, I love them for different reasons. But 4 for me has always been like my go-to Friday.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it reigns supreme over my heart. But yeah, I think if I had to ultimately choose, I would go 4, 6, 5.
Which I think is a sensible ranking, and not one that a lot of people would probably go 6, 4, 5, because 6 turns out to be. In fact, I was listening to a recent episode of the Screen Drafts podcast that Graham Skipper and Billy Ray Bruton and Elric Kane and Rebecca McKendry were on, and they were doing a super draft of all the Friday the 13th and all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. They were ranking them all together. And the original Nightmare on Elm Street came in number 2 behind number 1, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, which beat out every Friday movie and every Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Now, there was some political maneuvering that took place that led to that result. But yeah, it came out on top. So I really expected on this rewatch, after listening to that epic 3-hour podcast, I was like, okay, there's obviously something that I've missed in Friday 6. And when I go back to rewatch it for this podcast, I'm going to discover how great it is. And it's one of these situations where it's me, it's not the movie. Like, I watch the movie and I recognize that it's good. It's maybe the best directed of the series. It's very clever. It's probably the slickest in the series. But for whatever reason, there's just something about it that doesn't click with me. I think I like my Fridays a little bit...
sleazier?
I don't know if it's sleazier. I guess maybe it's a little sleazier. But I don't even know. Like, the first 2, and I love 2. 2 is probably my second favorite. And I wouldn't say that one's... Too. I wouldn't say that one's sleazy. There's something almost innocent about the sex in, like, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, there's nudity.
There's nudity for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 5 definitely is in terms
5
of
is sleazy.
The sleazy. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Jason Lives, but I don't know that I would rank it like that. That's a bold maneuver.
Above the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Especially because I just went back and rewatched the Nightmare series. Not that I don't have the Blu-ray set, but I was like, oh, it's on Shudder. Of course I'm going to spend time watching Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And it was funny because Brian hadn't actually watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street in years. Like, it'd probably been like 3 or 4 years for him. I'm such a bad girlfriend. I really should up it. Because our Friday 13th has kind of become our go-to franchise. Because of the video game and because we have them actually on our Vudu account. Oh. So we just kind of, because we never bought the Blu-ray set for Friday, because I'm just holding out with, that faint glimmer of hope that we might actually get like a good set eventually.
Especially now that Scream Factory is working with Paramount. Right.
So all of my dreams are coming true.
Yeah.
So I'm just hopeful that maybe next year we'll get like, a good Friday the 13th set. So usually at night, like if he's, because like a lot of times at night, like he'll play video games while I'm working because that just calms me down. I don't know. I'm weird. But if we end on the Friday the 13th game, we're like, well, we have to put a Friday the 13th on. So we watch those way more. But so we sat down to watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street. And I forgot how amazing that score is.
Yep.
How fantastic the scares are in it. How just, it's so goddamn good. Like, and I say this as somebody who loves the sequels for the most part. Freddy's Dead can get bent, and I can't get on board with that one. I try and I just can't do it. But it's like that original Nightmare, like it's so goddamn good. I'm like, oh my God, like every time I see it, I'm just like, oh my God, like it makes me realize, like as a kid, like why I became so enamored with that movie, because it really was just unlike any other slasher. I love how Friday the 13th episode, we're like, let's talk about Nightmare on Elm Street. But it really, like, I was so happy that Shudder put it on, because I was just like, I was continuously watching the Nightmare movies for like a month because of Shudder. So God bless you guys, or Xenu bless you guys. I don't know how that works. Anyways, but yeah, just to put anything above that kind of blows my mind.
Well, it's funny. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror movie ever made. Like, I think it's such a masterpiece. And I like the Friday movies like you, except for Part 6, but I could watch 2 through 5 pretty much any time. But I don't. because like you, Friday the 13th is my go-to. Like Friday the 13th, I literally could put on whenever and can just watch those movies endlessly. But I basically watch 1 through 5. Like I don't usually throw on a 6, 7, 8, or even a Jason Goes to Hell or a Jason X. I will occasionally, but for the most part, I stick to 1 through 5, and those are the ones that are in heavy rotation for me. But yeah, Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise, even though I think it has the fewest legitimately great movies in it. Almost any other franchise, you could look at Halloween, you could look at Nightmare on Elm Street, you could look at Texas Chainsaw, you could look at Hellraiser, you could look at I don't know, whatever, you know, of the big, you know, franchises of kind of the 80s, all of them have at least one masterpiece. And I don't know that the Friday the 13th series does, but there's I think
4 gets close.
4 gets close. I agree with you. 4 definitely comes close. And I think 4 is legitimately a great movie. I think 2 is also.
Yeah.
But man, I could watch these movies anytime.
Yeah, it's funny because when it turned September 1st, because I think a lot of us who work sort of in this realm, you know, we tend to feel like our September and October just kind of flies away from us so quickly. And so it was kind of thing Brad Miska had said, like, you know what, I'm reclaiming my September. I'm going to start doing all my Halloween's, you know, movie watching then. And I was like, right on, Brad. I was like, I totally agree. So September 1st, we started putting out our Halloween decorations, and we just started binging the Halloween movies. Because it's weird because we always fall asleep to Halloween 2 in our house, which is such a weird random thing, but it's just it's our sleep movie. But we don't really sit down and watch the Halloween movies a ton outside of the season. Halloween 2018 is a little different because that just came out like on Blu-ray, so I watched it a bunch this year. But this was like, we started putting decorations up. Halloween 1 went in the player, and we went through the entire series that day. Wow. And I was surprised, but I will say something very controversial. I would rather watch Halloween Resurrection than Friday A New Beginning. I know.
You are hurting my feelings right now.
I'm a constant disappointment. I understand.
You are a monster.
I am.
I have a weird thing with the Halloween movies where I would rather watch the sequels than the original. Like the original's the best one, but I'm less like I'm more likely to put on 2 than I am the original. I don't know why that is.
You know, I'm wondering if it's because is it because like when you watch like either the original Nightmare on Elm Street or the original Halloween, because you really watch those movies? Do you know what I mean? Like they just kind of like, for me, like I love Dream Warriors, but I can put that on while I work and just kind of do stuff. But if I put on like a Nightmare on Elm Street, like I'm not really working. I'm just caught up in a Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm almost wondering if like, it's like a byproduct of like, just sort of like the fun elements to it that sort of make him it's almost like, I don't want to say like background noise, because that's not what I mean. But like for me, like if I really want to feel like it's autumn outside, like I'll put on Halloween 4. Because that's also 4 and 5 have been on Shudder for months now. So I've actually watched Halloween 4 quite a bit because I can just kind of pop it on and it's just sort of soothing that it's there. But if I put on the original Halloween, I will find myself stopping to basically sit and watch it. Right. If that makes sense. I think it does. I think that's probably it. That like the sequels are more like background noise than they are demanding my full attention, which is probably why I gravitate towards so many of the Friday movies, because they are easily background noise, even if I'm not using them as background noise. Like most of the time I'm probably watching them. I'm not just having them on while doing something else. But they just demand less of me. Also, since you brought up Halloween 4, I just want to mention... your boy. Dwight H. Little, you my boy. That's it. I know. I was so excited when I was revisiting Phantom of the Opera. And I was like, oh, I wonder if Patrick's revisiting Phantom of the Opera for when we were doing our class of 1989 stuff. Because I was like, it's funny, but it really is one of my favorite Phantom adaptations. I love it. I will watch any Phantom adaptation. Even the Gerard Butler one? I love it. It's so... Like, I've never seen it, to be honest. Really? Yeah. You know, honestly, I saw it in theaters because I was like, oh my God, they're doing Phantom. I'm weird that way. Like I even like the Andrew Lloyd Webber sort of theater version too, which is obviously the safest version of all of them.
Yeah.
But if you watch like that movie, it's very long. It's very sumptuous. It's got a very sweaty Patrick Wilson in it. But I love the set pieces in that movie. The costume design is incredible. Gerard Butler isn't the best Phantom I've ever seen, but he's better than I'm always surprised when I go back and rewatch it where I'm like, oh, he's actually not terrible in it.
Okay.
But I get caught up in that world and I'm all about it. I love that story. But the Dwight Little version is the closest, I think, to Gaston Leroux's original novel, because it is a very horrific story that has a lot of very gruesome elements to it. And I just remember when I saw the version with Robert Englund, that was the reason I went and read the book. And it's not even a book. I mean, it's 100 pages. But I've been obsessed with it ever since. And I actually read it every October. It's a little tradition I have. I got it on my Kindle, cause I lost my regular book copy of it. But I is when I was watching it, I was like, oh, Patrick would be so proud because I'm going to spend a few days with his boy, Dwight Little.
That's right. Dwight H. Little. You my boy. So Tommy Jarvis.
Now that we've talked about everything but Friday the 13th.
What is your, this question, I already know the answer to this question, but what is your favorite iteration of Tommy Jarvis?
Oh my God, I'm a kid of the 80s. Of course it's Corey Feldman.
I knew the answer, but I wasn't sure.
Are you kidding me? Of course it was Corey. I mean, it was, as a kid who, wanted to believe that vampires lived in my neighborhood or there were monsters around, the idea of a kid that could fight back against an evil monster that way. That was all I needed, growing up. As I go through and I look at the different sort of versions of Tommy, I have to say, and I know this is going to make you sad, but John Shepherd is my least favorite. But I don't think it's his fault. I just think it's the way that the character is presented in the film, and he doesn't quite get enough to do. Thom Mathews basically, Tom McLaughlin turns him into sort of this hero in a way, where he gets to have a personality and he gets to break out. And I don't think in part 5, Tommy really ever gets that kind of a moment, because he's always brooding and he's always angry about something and he's always got things going on in his head, man. So I don't think he quite gets the opportunities that Corey or Thom Mathews gets. So I don't fault him. I
almost feel like that iteration is more interesting than what Thom Mathews does.
Is it though?
Well,
I'm just kidding. I feel like I was doing the thing with the picture with Thor, where it's is it?
On paper, probably. I agree that, Danny Steinman probably doesn't execute it the way that makes it that interesting because, he's just, part of it is when I watch 4, I don't want to imagine that this kid is going to become a comatose psychopath, right? But
right.
I don't know. Thom Mathews is fine and he fits in the movie. He's a little bit of generic hero guy. Without, I don't think, having that distinctive a personality himself, but which isn't to say that Tommy in part 5 has that distinctive a personality. I just think it's an interesting choice. Okay, well, let's say that the events of part 4 really messed him up, and let's see what happens there. Like I said, I don't think the movie really does much with it and probably doesn't earn the status of being more interesting. I just think on paper, at least they're trying something different, but yeah, I'd rather watch Thom Mathews' portrayal of Tommy Jarvis than John Shepherd. Is it John Shepherd?
Yeah. And no, I totally agree. And I think that's sort of the biggest disservice, I think, to part 5. It's I have a lot of other issues with that movie, but I think part 5 is just that it takes Tommy Jarvis, this character that clearly became a fan favorite, and then just kind of strips him away of anything that makes him somebody that's endearing to the audience. I mean, I don't know that anybody in Part 5, I'm trying to be nice, but I just don't know that anybody in that movie other than Reggie the Reckless is really endearing. I mean, Melanie does a good job, as Pam, but like, I don't know. I think my biggest problem with Part 5 is it just feels like everybody's in a completely different movie. And I don't feel like any of the performances kind of come together. Mm-hmm. Like I just as I just rewatched it on this weekend again. I was like, mm-hmm. I'm gonna do right by Patrick and watch it again.
Thank you.
And it just like everybody in that movie is doing a performance for a completely different movie. And it's a mess. And again, I don't fault anybody in that movie. I fault, Danny Steinman because like clearly he had his MO for what he wanted that movie to be. And I just don't think he works well with real actors.
But do you not find the totality of it, do you not find it all very entertaining?
No.
Really? See, I find it so entertaining that, like, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I just kind of don't care because at the end of the day, I'm so entertained by it.
It's a movie that just kind of leaves me feeling sort of icky when I'm done.
Okay. I just feel icky all the time, so it works out.
Yeah, so you don't really notice any changes.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, there's parts of it that I enjoy. I think the stuff with Demon is fun. And who doesn't love Miguel Nunez? But also, like, whose girlfriend sings to them while they're pooping? Like, who does that?
People in love.
I guess. I mean, maybe my whole relationship has been a lie.
It's the most romantic thing I've ever seen. It beats out that pottery scene in Ghost.
So basically what you're saying is Erica sits outside of the bathroom and she's like, ooh, baby, baby. Okay.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah,
and then I sing it back to her in a different key because we didn't record it on the same day.
Of course. But yeah, it's a movie that I struggle to enjoy. I mean, there's the obvious reasons why I don't like watching it, which is what's his face's stupid Joey. The guy who basically, I mean, if we're just, I look at that guy and all I can think about is Corey Haim. I'll be really honest.
Yeah, it's hard now to watch it and not, right. It's like trying to watch a Victor Salva movie. You're just like, oh, God damn it. Like, this is a horrible person.
And I know it's different for everybody, and I'm never going to fault anybody that. But it's like, for me, it's weird. Like, I haven't watched Rosemary's Baby in 10 years until because I had no idea up until that point, like the stuff with whatever the guy who just won another award. Yeah. We're still giving the guy awards. Cool. I don't really watch Beetlejuice anymore. And thankfully I always hated Ferris Bueller's, so that worked out for me. So I kind of avoid Jeffrey Jones movies. Like it's weird. And I think like the Joey thing just really throws me off. And whenever I see him, it makes me physically angry. And I try to get past that, but I'm like, ugh. Like I just want to punch him in the face, like repeatedly.
Or axe him in the back.
Or that too. I mean, and also like that's the stupidest way to chop firewood too. Like
by hitting someone in the back with the axe. I agree. You don't even touch the firewood.
But like when Vic is doing the firewood, like he's not even chopping the wood the right way. Like he's got the log on the side.
Yeah, that's the problem with Friday 5. It
really is. It really is. I need authenticity to my movies. There's no cute dog to root for. I don't know. No, I try really hard, and I'll watch it a couple times a year because I'm like, all right, this is when it's going to be like, all right, this is going to click for me. It's going to bring me back. Because I don't like disliking movies. I really don't. I think, maybe that's a fault of mine where I try too hard to like movies, but I love movies in general. And so I don't want to hate a movie. I never want to hate a movie because I love what movies do for us. But this movie really, it's like, it just tries so hard to make me angry with it. And it does a really good job of it. And I'm just like, do I love Violet dancing in her room? Of course. But it's like everybody's at like a completely different like emotional cue in it. Like, and there's so much going on. So I'm like, if I'm going to watch a movie that involves Tommy, like I mostly skip 5. Like I'll just go 4 to 6. You know, but
then how does the beginning of 6 make any sense? Somehow
I can just work it all out.
Are you sure?
I can, you know, I work it all out in my head. Plus, you know, you have, was it Horshack?
That's him? Yeah. Ron Palillo.
Yes. Sorry, pulling out those deep Welcome Back Kotter references for all the kids out there.
We're old. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. We're so old. But yeah, I struggle with it. And I try not to, because I know it's a movie you like. You know, I know it's like you with like, you know, Scream 4 or whatever other crappy movies that I like. Underworld movies.
Oh God, Underworld movies.
Oh well, come on, you could like Howling too, because there's you know, Sybil Danning.
There are things I like about Howling too.
Yes, so there you go. But yeah, I really, really struggle with Friday 5. Like I just really do. Although it does have Richard Lineback in it, who of course was in Speed, and he is the one who informs. I'm totally forgetting the actor's name, Joe Morton, that the 105 wasn't finished. And he says, I guess they fell behind. Yeah. So one of my favorite lines. So he is in that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's just, that movie is so much. And all the stuff with Ethel and Junior. Oh Lord. Like, I don't know. It's because like I have, and you're in New Jersey. Like, is New Jersey filled with country bumpkins? I don't understand.
It's the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, but then we get to 6 and like some people have a strange idea of entertainment. That guy, he's not that far removed from Ethel and Junior. Let's be honest.
He is. He's not screeching at me. He's just basically littering, and he dies for it.
He's pretty cartoonish.
Well, he's also an undertaker or a caretaker.
Right.
I don't know what they're called. Undertaker is something different. He's also a wrestler. I mean,
he's the Undertaker.
He is. I mean, he's one line versus Ethel screeching and calling her son a giant dildo or something like that. Like, it's so different. It's so different. I'm sorry. Like, it's just like, it's completely different. And that's not to say that I don't have issues with 6 too. Because I do think, what's her name? Jennifer Cook, who plays Megan in that movie. Like, that chick smiles way too much for the serious shit going on around her. Yeah. Like, she's just constantly smirking. And I'm like, girl, like, what are you doing? Your dad just died. And there's like a half smile.
Pretty horrifically.
Yeah.
He gets the gnarliest awesome death in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool kill.
It is. Because the others are kind of boring in that movie.
Yeah, I think for me, what I like about Jason Lives is the fact that there's actually kids at camp, and we've never had that before. We've been running this summer camp for how many years now? Right. And there's never been kids there, and all of a sudden, and for me, it almost feels like sort of a version of like sleepaway camp in a way, but kids are way less in peril in this. Although the fact that the kids are, you know, attunely aware of the fact that like they could die is kind of fun. Right. Like when that kid's like, well, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Which is like, a great line. That's a great line.
Such a great line. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's, you know, they all have their issues, you know, but 5 just really, like I turn it on and it's like, yeah, you want to go? You want to fight now? And that's just how I feel like when I watch that movie. Like, that movie is ready to fight me as a viewer, and I don't want that.
5 is like a group of people watched the first 4 and did a community theater production of a Friday the 13th movie, and I love it.
You know what? I would actually watch that. Can we put that together?
Sure.
We should do like an F This Movie Players next year for Flashback. I'll talk to Mike.
All right.
And we'll put together we'll call ourselves the F This Movie Players, and we'll put together like a Friday the 13th play.
I'm in.
I love it. Love it.
As long as I can play Steve from part 1.
Well, of course. I mean, shouldn't we fly in Scott for that though?
Yeah, we really should.
He would be really sad if we didn't.
He's got the jean shorts and everything.
With the kerchief. So, yeah, I mean, and like I said, like I really have a lot of fun with 6, and 6 has actually grown on me more as I've gotten older, because I don't remember really liking it a lot when I was a kid. Like I thought it was fun. I was like, oh, Jason's kind of Frankenstein now. That's pretty nifty. And obviously it sort of sets in motion the latter half of like that franchise,
right?
In terms of like, well, how the hell do you keep bringing Jason back? And this kind of gives you that perfect sort of setup for it. So now he's, got sort of these supernatural abilities, and, you can kind of buy into it a little bit more. But, I mean, I think ultimately when it comes down to it, if I'm going to sort of watch that one that just takes me back to being a kid, it's going to be Final Chapter. Because I remember still to this day recording it off of late night ABC when they used to play movies, like super late night on Saturday nights.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there trying to like pause it so that way I wouldn't have to get commercials in there, and you'd have to get really good at your timing so you could cut out your commercials and stuff. But I wore the crap out of that tape for like 6 years. Like I watched that all the time.
The only thing that keeps me away from watching 4 more than I would like to is the death of what's his name, the brother. What's his name? The guy.
What's Rob?
Rob, yes.
That's the reason?
It's so horrific and realistic. And 4 is my favorite. I'm not saying anything against 4.
He didn't really die, though.
Do I, though? See, I don't understand how movies work.
I mean, I've never seen Eric Anderson since myself.
Exactly. No, it's so dark that, like, sometimes when I put these movies on, I'm just looking for escape, and I can't escape during that scene because I'm like, oh, I'm really being confronted with this guy.
Neither could he.
No, exactly. It's really... I'm really being confronted with this horrible act of violence, and so sometimes I'm not in the mood for 4. But it's still my favorite one. I'm not saying anything bad about 4. It's actually something the movie does right and better than probably any of the other movies. It's like the one act of true horror in any of these movies. But like 3 for me is the breeziest. Like 3 is the one I could put on. Yeah. It's just pure cotton candy.
I'm just in it for the music, to be honest. That opening theme,
disco theme,
I just want the disco. I just want Disco Friday 13th. That's basically what I'm in it for.
You know what's great about 6 is the score, actually. Like I had to double check that it was Harry Manfredini because he did something new. I was like, wait, he came up with new themes and he's using new instrumentation. He's not just recycling the same thing he did in every other movie. It's a really great score. I'm a little bit bummed because I know whoever, Mondo or Death Waltz or one of those companies has put out all of the Friday soundtracks up through 5, and they haven't put 6 out. And I wish they would put 6 out because I would totally get it because it's a really, really great score.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not out there because honestly, I probably would pick it up as well. I know I still wish I had that freaking Nightmare on Elm Street box set of scores because holy crap. But, that's like a rent payment or something at this point. But yeah, I don't understand why that's the one. Because isn't Manhattan out also?
I don't think so. I thought they only went up through 5, but I could be wrong.
I swear I saw like the artwork from Jason Takes Manhattan on a record that came out like last year, but I could be totally wrong. Who knows? I might have just dreamt it because I do nothing but dream about Jason Takes Manhattan. But yeah, no, I think 6 does have a really great score. And yeah, it is nice to see Manfredini, I don't know, not recycling things over and over again.
Right.
It's funny because like watching, because we actually, before we decided to do this, we had just watched 4 because we started going through them again. And so we had finished 3 and I was like, we went through 4 and I was like, oh, well, that's perfect timing. I didn't even realize we had a Friday 13th coming up. And it made me realize that, everybody kind of talks about like their quote unquote favorite final girls in the Friday the 13th series. Mm-hmm. And Trish is one that comes up a lot. And Kimberly Beck is really good in the role and everything like that. But she's kind of a terrible sister.
Yeah.
She really kind of is. Like she leaves her little brother home. Like, so she can run off with this guy that she has a hot for. And let's be honest, she's not running over there to save him. Like, she's staying with him because, he's Rob and he's, she's into the machete. But she leaves her little brother at home to fend for himself with a killer on the loose. And she's like, fix the power. Like, why is this little kid responsible for all of this stuff? And I think maybe that's why I always like that iteration of Tommy Jarvis, is because I was a kid who like had a lot put on them at a very young age. And I got that because like, you know, it's like he has to fix the car. He's got to fix the power in the house. And it's like, he's responsible for making sure the dog's inside and all this stuff. And I'm like, he's a kid. And I'm like, and you're like, oh, we're going to run over and check and see if this killer's next door, you know, stay in the house. Like, you're not worried about him? Stick together. Like, why would you leave your little brother home by himself? Trish. Sorry, I just got angry at a fictional character.
Trish would never come up on my list of favorite final girls.
It's one of those, like, I always liked her, like, as a kid, because, like, you know, she's got a fun personality. She's, you know, she's modest, but, you know, kind of, you could tell she's wanting to not be modest. So, you know, I get that internal struggle, you know. But it's like at the same time, I'm like, you're a really terrible sister. Yeah. Like, you know, what are you doing? She
makes Tommy kill Jason.
Right? Like, come on.
Get in there and kill him yourself.
And it's because of her that we have part 5.
Because she makes Tommy kill Jason?
Exactly.
Yeah. Not really. It's because of Joey that we have part 5. Because Roy would never have been born if not for Joey.
That's true.
Yeah, or Vic, I should say. Really, it's because of Vic.
So it all comes down to, if he would have just cut the firewood the right way.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll boil. Okay. I can get on board with that.
Yeah. Do you take issue with the fact that it's Roy instead of Jason in part 5?
No, I really don't, because I'm actually a big fan of Jason Goes to Hell. I love body swapping stories. I think that's why I've always loved Shocker. And that's why I like Jason Goes to Hell. That doesn't really faze me. Because I think it's interesting for me, like, if they try to do that in A Nightmare on Elm Street, it would absolutely bother me. Because it wouldn't make sense. Because obviously Freddy is an entity that works on a different spectrum than Jason or Michael Myers.
Right.
Even like at the end of, Halloween Age 20 or beginning of Resurrection, when you find out Jamie Lee doesn't cut off Michael's head, she cuts off, a paramedic's head. Maybe that was their nod to Friday 5.
It's always a paramedic.
Whoa. What if it was, what if that was their way of paying tribute to Friday 5 all this time?
It's a very influential film.
It really is. It really is. I can see that. But yeah, it doesn't really bother me. In fact, if I would say, like, in terms of things that would make that movie interesting, when you're saying, like, on paper, that makes it interesting. I think the reasons behind him doing it are kind of suspect at best, and they're definitely grasping at some straws there. Especially when they're going through his wallet, and he just, like, within a few days, he decides to take on the Jason mantra. But I get the understanding that everybody knows who Jason is at this point. So why do you have newspaper clippings in your wallet?
Right.
Like, you just go get a mask and an outfit. Like, you don't really need to keep newspaper clippings, or the fact that you'd had a picture of your son that lives at this place that you're no longer with, but yet it's a very current picture.
Right.
Like, it's some little details that kind of trip me up on that, but that's just my stupid brain overthinking things.
Well, the reveal is stupid, and the identity. But it was
just Roy being Roy. That's one thing.
Right. Well, that's the thing, and it's a stupid reveal, and the identity of the killer is stupid. But the movie essentially uses the language of a Jason movie, so I don't understand. The complaint that, like, well, I don't like part 5 because it's not Jason. Like, it's basically Jason until this shot where they demask him and you find out, oh, it was actually Roy. But up to that point, you've been watching a Jason movie, guy in a hockey mask going around killing people. And most of the movie, uses it's set up as more of a mystery. It's really the only movie besides part 1 that's kind of a mystery in terms of who's doing the killing. And then there's the red herring. It's Jason. Oh, wait, no, it's not Jason. It's Roy. So I think that's interesting that it's the only movie besides part 1 to kind of do that. But yeah, I've never really understood the argument that, like, there's no Jason in it, because there basically is. It's a guy in a hockey mask. Like, everything about it is very similar to another Friday the 13th movie, except at one point they take his mask off and it's a guy named Roy instead, which I agree is a stupid reveal. I'm not defending the choice of making it a paramedic named Roy who watched his son get hatcheted by Vic, but that's a complaint that I don't understand.
Yeah, it's weird because that's sort of my least problematic part of that movie.
Sure.
Beyond the fact that they apparently weren't letting any female cast members wear bras either. Apparently that was on the no-no list.
Are you saying that's a problem, or what are you saying?
I'm just saying it's very unrealistic.
Oh.
I mean, look, you gotta hoist them up every once in a while. Especially if you're running from a killer. I don't know. But yeah, and it just, I don't know, the greasers in that movie are just weird. I don't know. It's an odd movie. I know I'll watch it again probably before the year is done, probably before October is done. And I'm going to give it the old Jason Voorhees try. But boy, it really, really, really just wants to screw with me. I don't know. I mean, at least it has an actress with the last name Voorhees in it.
That's right.
So that's something. So I'm sure that was probably fun for her, where she's like, oh, look at that. Although, is that the one who is on the blankets?
Yes.
Okay.
And
also there's a lot of repetitive kills in that movie too. There's a lot of eye gouging in that movie.
Yeah. The movie runs out of steam, and I think the second half is not as entertaining as the first half, even in its crazy batshit way. Yeah, because at a certain point the kills are pretty uninspired. And 6 does have that going for it, that I don't particularly love a lot of the kills in 6. I think some of them are lame and some of them are repetitive, but then you do get the one of the sheriff being bent in half, and it's like all is forgiven.
Yeah, and sometimes when you see things like that, I always wonder how much of that was dictated by behind the scenes stuff.
No, for
because
sure.
Obviously, especially once you get into the territory of 7 and 8, when people were having their budget slashed while they were shooting and stuff like that.
Right.
They have to make the best out of a bad situation. I don't know enough about the making of 5. I've never sat down to watch the entire Crystal Lake Memories.
Oh, I've watched it 4 times.
It's pretty long though, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's 6 hours. I seriously have watched it probably 4 or 5 times.
Okay, no, I'm not, and that's awesome. Because Never Sleep Again was streaming for years, and I have a DVD of it.
Yeah.
So, but I never was involved with Crystal Lake Memories, so I just never got around to seeing it. And I've always wanted to.
It's on Shudder if you're at all interested. But
is it really?
It is, yeah.
How the hell? Because I mean, I knew the the Hellraiser was on there. I knew Fright Night was on there. I knew. Never Sleep Again went over there.
Yeah.
The Nightbreed one I think is on there too. Is there a Nightbreed one? Did I make that up?
No, there might be.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I never saw that Crystal Lake Memories was on there. Well, now I got something to watch.
It's one of those that if I don't feel like watching a Friday movie, sometimes I'll put that on because it's clips and talking heads. Yeah, sign me up. It's one of those background noise things again that I like having on because it scratches the Friday the 13th itch. So I've watched it way too many times. Gotcha.
No, I get it. It's everybody has their cinematic comfort food.
Right.
So I totally understand. Yeah, I don't know how come I've never sat down and watched that.
Because it's weird. 6 hours long and you have things to do.
Well, I mean, Never Sleep Again is 40 hours long or something
true.
like that.
Yeah, it was. It was very long.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was that... There's some documentary that I don't watch because Brian's ex is in it, and I don't think that was it. So yeah, that probably wasn't the reason why.
No.
I was trying to make sure. So that's good. Okay. So yeah, but yeah, I just when I go to my sort of go-to Friday movies, I think 2, 3, 4 is sort of our 3 that we pretty much go back to a lot.
That's a good trilogy right there.
Even though they're not the Tommy Jarvis trilogy,
right.
I love the bumblingness of Jason in the first or in Friday 2. and how he's just he's still like a little baby killer, and he still has to figure out how to do the killings, and he's falling over chairs and, still tripping when he's running and, trying to figure things out, especially when he's got like one eye hole. Like, why not just cut another eye hole, man? So I think that's why I like 2. 3, I like it for everything but the main chick.
Yeah, Chris is not the best.
Oh, Lord, she's awful. Although I like that their boyfriend wears Mrs. Voorhees' sweater, essentially, at one point in the movie, where I was like, oh, that's nice. And I like Foxy and the bikers and stuff.
Heck
They're pretty fun. And I think I love the spear gun kill. I think that's a pretty rad one. So, but yeah, I think 2, 3, 4 are like the ones that we go to a lot. So...
I watch 1 a lot, which is weird because I don't love 1. I like it, and I like probably the first half more than the second half. I feel like at a certain point, 1 just runs out of gas, and it kills everybody off in a very short amount of time, and then has nothing to do for like a long time. But I end up putting it on. Again, I think it's kind of just a vibe. Like, I just like the time period. I like... the group of kids, I like the kids in 1 and 2 the best.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like the rainy night vibes of it.
Yeah.
And it just sort of feels like the time that it's from. Like, I do think it's for me, it's always a weird movie. Like, I'm not a big fan of like mystery movies where like the killer is revealed to be somebody that like we have no
you could
knowledge
never have
of.
Guessed, right?
Yeah, like I need some red herrings, and it's like this woman who we were never introduced to until like she shows up,
right?
And you're like, well, obviously she's the killer because everybody else is dead, and this other girl's not attacking herself. So okay. So it's weird. Like, I mean, I like there's like the scene where like Steve comes out and he's just like, oh hi. So obviously Steve knew her,
right?
But I don't know her,
right?
So it's, for mysteries that do that, like, I'm like, I feel like we could have worked her in a little bit earlier. But I do think there's some fun things where like, I think it's Robbie Morgan who's in her car and has to like jump out. And I almost like the way that it's like sort of mimicking like, Maniac, where it's like, it's the killer POV, but we don't really know it is.
Right.
So I think it does it, but it's just like the whole thing. You're like, oh, it's this crazy woman. Okay. All right. And then I think, once 2 sort of sets off in a completely different direction, I think that's when it's like, okay, cool. We're getting somewhere now. So yeah, it's weird, but we've actually started watching 1 a little bit more lately. Just cause it's fun. And it feels, I don't know, it just feels like summer camp to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
which one has your favorite Jason?
Oh, in terms of design, I kind of love Friday 7's Jason. There's something really cool about like that exposed like back and like the rib cage area and the way he looks when his mask pops off. But in terms of like the characteristics of Jason, I love Sackhead Jason because, like I said, I just think there's something sort of like weirdly adorable about this killer who's just like, he screws up. He's not perfect because he's just becoming a killer, so he's kind of messing it up and stuff, and he's really awkward at it. I think 4 gets a lot right. 6, of course, for me, 6 I always think is kind of weird because it's like he comes out of the grave and yet he's got like hunting stuff on him, like he's changed outfits into like somehow in the grave, like maybe the electricity made him like have a little pouch to carry his throwing knives in.
Yeah, that's how electricity works.
I was going to say, I think that's how it works. I think that's pretty much what happened with Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Or, Frankenstein, if I want to go with a Frankenstein reference. But yeah, I think in terms of the look of like the monstrosity, like, because there's 2 Jasons, basically. There's the, alive Jason, and then there's reanimated Jason. So I think for alive Jason, it's Sackhead. Reanimated, it's Friday 7.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm not crazy about reanimated Jason, just in general. I don't like the big sort of lumbering that kind of zombie Jason. I don't really like the physicality of it. I don't know why. Like, because I feel like that's the one I grew up on more. Because as a kid, I probably saw 6, 7, and 8 more than the first few. Maybe because they just were on cable more, as a kid, because those were the ones that were new when I was a kid, as opposed to having been out for several years. But I think I like part 3 the best. The Jason in part 3. I like that he just is like he's just kind of a crazy person in a hockey mask. He's a lot like part 2. In the way that he moves, and he's still just like a regular guy, who just moves kind of like a regular guy. He's not this big zombified Hulk of a man. And
those are my favorite versions of men, zombified Hulks of men.
I know. 2 is the one that's like controversial, right? Because there were 2 actors that played him. It was like Steve Dash and Warrington Gillette, and nobody knows who's in what scene.
Yeah, I think Steve Dash was in most, because I know Warrington was the only one that was willing to do the prosthetics.
Okay.
For when at the end when he pulls Ginny through the window.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, he was like, I don't think Steve Dash wanted to do the prosthetics.
R.I.P.
I think we talked about that on that panel. Yeah. I still can't believe that we saw them there, and then within the year, he was just gone. I know,
it's horrible.
It's terrible. But if I remember correctly, I think he was saying he didn't want to do the prosthetics, so that was the Warrington stuff. Because somebody, I think, asked them during the Q&A, well, what did you do and what did the other guy do?
Right.
I think, because for some reason, horror fans are way better at being direct about that stuff than I am. We're all tiptoe around it trying to be the nice guy, and they're like, so which one were you and which one was the other guy? And I'm trying to not be insulting.
Well, you're being a gracious host, right? You don't want to offend people up there.
Or a wuss,
Or that, but I prefer to call it gracious host.
Yeah, but I really think Sackhead is just kind of fun because there's something so, I think in a way the white of the sack, like the sack on his head, it sort of mimics in a way like the blankness of Michael Myers' mask.
Okay.
So I think that's why for me, as a kid, he was really, really scary because it was just this blank palette with one little eye hole, which again is just so just cut the other side, man. You'd be so much better at your job of killing teenagers if you just had both eyes to work with. So I think it's that blankness that I really liked, and I liked his little overalls. It comes down to the fashion, I think. So, but yeah, I think Friday 3 is like Dickies Jason, where he's wearing Dickies pants and a Dickies shirt.
He is. In fact, we while we are recording, I'm going to text you because we bought a Jason to be friends with our Michael Myers, and I didn't like the costume that he came in, so I bought a Dickies shirt to put him in so that we could make him the Friday 3 Jason. Nice.
You could have just borrowed some of Brian's because that's all Brian wears.
Yeah, that's true. I could have, but
that's perfect.
Right? That's pretty good.
I love how we're doing this right now while nobody can see. But I like your Jason Dickies. That's excellent.
Thank you. It's also a different hockey mask. I changed his mask and I changed his shirt.
You're like, screw this, Jason. I'm going to make him into my own.
Exactly. The hockey mask comes painted onto the sculpted head, so actually he's wearing a mask over a mask right now.
Oh, he's got double mask action.
Double mask action, which was the only thing the original Jason was missing. But yeah, I put the shirt on, and the pants should technically be gray, but I'm just leaving the black pants.
Yeah, because is he on a stand? How would you even get the pants off him? You'd have to
he's on a stand, yeah.
Yeah, because you'd have to cut him off and then cut the new pants with Velcro or something to reattach them.
Well, no, the feet come off and it's a whole thing. Okay, I could realistically change his pants, but I'm not going to.
And then you have to look at his dingle or something like that, and it's just that's a line you don't want to cross.
I thought it was weird that they made it anatomically correct. I thought
that is weird.
It really surprised me when I went to dress the Jason.
I mean. Was it weird?
It was weird in that it was hot. Yeah, no, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. It got hot very quickly.
Who of us hasn't wondered at least once? They're like, how's it going? So there you go.
Well, I'm glad that we set out to talk about the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, and we ended up on Jason's Wang.
Yes, as one would.
Which is the name of Ari Lehman's band. It's called Jason's Wang, and it will play literally anywhere you ask.
I don't even know how to follow up that. Yeah.
He wears fingerless gloves.
Oh, yeah. Did you say fingerless gloves?
Of course.
Of course. I mean, for anybody out there who wants to postulate on this deep and meaningful theory of ours of what Jason's Wang would be like, I'd be curious to hear other theories, is what I'm saying.
It's got a little hockey mask on it.
Well, I mean, of course. I mean,
it's got a burlap sack. That's why they call him Sackhead Jason.
I was actually just going to make a sackhead joke, and you just made a better one, so I will leave it at that.
Oh, we have gone off the rails.
Excellent. This is what everybody's tuning in for. These pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, I can't really explain why this is my favorite franchise. And I would go back and forth for years because I was like, no, there's more Nightmare on Elm Street movies that I like, right? That I really like. Oh, no, there's a couple Halloweens that I really, really like. But Friday the 13th is clearly my go-to franchise. Like, I could just watch these movies.
It's so weird. And I'm like, I would never argue with that it's the best franchise out of all the franchises, but I think it's one of the consistent franchises.
I think that's what it is. I think it sets a low bar pretty early on, even though I do think, like, one has its problems. It's hard to argue with its influence. But I think 2 is legitimately good. I don't think 2 is just good for a Friday the 13th movie. I think 2 is a legitimately good slasher. So is 4.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's just about like, oh, they're all bad, so therefore, it's consistent. Because I think there are some that are genuinely good, and then others like 6, I think is genuinely good. I just, for some reason, am not as into it as I am 1 through 5.
No,
I might like it more than 1, actually. I probably like 6 more than 1.
I would also say I think there's also like certain moods for certain Jasons. You know what I mean? Where like Michael's just kind of Michael in his movies.
Yes.
Where like, there's a certain Jason for, all your different moods.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's what kind of makes it sort of the easily digestible franchise where it's just like, and I don't mean that in a dismissive way, but I just, if you just sort of want like I don't want to say popcorn movie because that sounds like I'm trying to be dismissive, but there is sort of a just entertainment value that just, I don't know, but I agree. I think there's something about these movies where I could just pop them on and I'm like, all right. I feel like I'm centered and grounded and I'm back where I need to be. I don't know how to explain it.
Friday the 13th is your center.
It is. It is.
Are you going to watch any of the movies this Friday the 13th?
Originally I was supposed to be busy that day, so I wasn't thinking I was going to get a chance to, but my schedule switched around, so I might actually be able to.
All right. What are you going to watch?
I don't know. Not 5.
Not 5. Hurtful.
Not 5. Well, let's be, if I'm being honest, I would rather watch 5 though than Jason Takes Manhattan.
All right. Well, this is progress.
Okay,
we found one. We found one you like less than 5. That's good.
Yeah, I don't really care for Jason Takes Manhattan. I think it's just got a little silliness that I can't overlook. Minus the fact that I don't know if you know this, but apparently it takes Jason quite a long time to actually get to New York. I don't know. I think I'm kind of bold here, and I'm saying something that we probably haven't heard before. But I don't know if you're aware, but it should have been called Jason's on a Boat.
Right.
Because
not as good a title.
I don't want to blow your mind, but he doesn't spend a whole lot of time in New York.
No, actually he spends all of it in Vancouver.
Yes, that's true. He actually spends no time in New York. Actually, didn't they take them though for like one night to go shoot the Times Square stuff?
Yeah.
So, which God, could you imagine being a kid and being like, you just happen to be in Times Square the night that Jason shows up?
Right.
Like, that would have been really cool as a kid.
Well, that's always a funny story in that Crystal Lake Memories doc, because they always kept the titles of the movies under wraps. So they always had different titles for the sequels. And so people wouldn't find out until they were shooting. Like, they would audition for something, they would get on set, they'd be shooting, and then they'd realize they were in a Friday the 13th movie. So it wasn't until that moment that they realized they were part of horror movie history.
Wow, how crazy do you think that was for Debbie Sue Voorhees then?
Right?
Right? And you know what? I get the sense of that she'd have been like, who's Jason Voorhees? I just get a sense about that chick where she didn't know. She didn't know how cool she had it. That's like being in a nightmare movie and your last name is Kruger. Like, come on. So unless you're Aaron Kruger and you're writing it, that's probably not a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
Because he wrote Scream 3. He's not a good writer.
Whatever.
Did he write Scream 4 also?
I want to say he came in and might have done some stuff. I know
Kevin Williamson is credited, but I thought that he got heavily rewritten.
I think there were some rewrites that came along with it, and it might have been him. But I was joking because didn't he do some rewrites on the Nightmare remake?
Oh, possibly. I don't know.
I feel like he might have, because he was like the guy who would come in and always do rewrites and stuff. Yeah. Which was kind of crazy to me.
Because he's not very good.
It just shows that you can pretty much fail upwards in Hollywood. And it's, well, especially if you're a man.
Yeah, for sure.
Buzzing, take that, men. Yeah.
Horror BFFs taking down the patriarchy.
Yeah. You're next, Patrick. Oh.
Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I swear I think he did something on the Nightmare remake, which explains a lot. So.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Horror BFFs, I realize.
Our Friday the 13th episode that we're going to end on the Nightmare remake. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone.
Aaron Kruger and Jason Wang. You're welcome. Happy Friday the 13th. As always, go to dailydead.com every day for the latest news and reviews and what's happening in horror. Go to corpseclub.com to find out how you too could become a member of the Corpse Club and unlock special bonus content. Get yourself some good Corpse Club swag. Thank you, as always, to our engineer Brian for making us sound good. Thank you to my horror BFF Heather for taking time out of her busy schedule to talk about Friday the 13th movies with me. It's always fun, Heather.
It was a blast for me as well, and it sucks because I want to make fun of you for saying that about my stupid schedule, but this month is literally one of those things where I had 2 days that I could do this the entire month, and I was like, oh crap, and I was like, all right, I'm really sorry to be a diva, but these are my 2 nights. Can you do either one? So I appreciate you, my horror BFF, for finding a way to work me into your schedule. So thank you.
We made it work, and we even squeezed in Jason's Wang. That's what she said, everybody.
Yes.
Until next time, guys, stay scary. Happy Friday the 13th.